What's going on, Chimeras? Tyr here. It's been a bit, but I'm back and it's finally time to get these videos going. Videos I promised to bring you that would explain things in the SoVerse. Today, I'm going more in depth on the term Phenosapien. You may have already caught the short, and while that was the cliff notes, this is the book short of reading the comics. So pick up a comic and read it so you can learn more. You're going to learn where the term came from, as far as me creating it, to whom it applies, the science behind it, how it's activated, types of powers, and where Phenosapiens originate in the SoVerse. So sit back and enjoy this episode of SoVerse Explained as I bring you into the universe just a little more. Phenosapien is a term I created to cover the individuals in the SoVerse who were born with powers. I originally was going to use the term mutant, something that everyone is familiar with, but upon research, I learned that using mutant and metahuman was something that wouldn't fly with the big two. So my journey began to find my own term that I can use. And some of the terms that I came across were, and prepare yourself because this is a list. The first one, Homo evolutio nictus, aka hen. This was the front runner for a long while. Then there was Eximius, which I'm pretty sure I butchered that, which is the reason why I didn't use it, because I felt like it didn't really roll off the tongue like I wanted it to. So I scrapped it. Then there was Daemon, which became the name for the demons in the SoVerse. So while I didn't use it for my powered people, I did use it for something. Then there was Demi, for demigods, but I felt this was a little too on the nose, as demigods, that sort of stuff for superheroes is always used. Next, there was Chimera Naturals, another that I felt just didn't quite work because I felt like it didn't have that catch like I wanted it to, so I scrapped that too. After that came Chimeras, which in hindsight would have been kind of cool because that's what you see in the logo. Our logo, it's a chimera. It's also what you, the fans, are called, so I decided not to go with it because I felt it had a better place in the community. Do me a favor, drop down in the comments and let me know if you feel that I missed an opportunity naming the superpower people of the SoVerse chimeras. There was also Zenith, which became the catch-all for anyone who has powers and abilities in a SoVerse, whether it be magic, superhuman abilities, or Phenosapiens themselves. I did, however, change out the Z with an X to pay homage to the X-Men. I eventually landed on the term Evosapiens, but I later learned, years after coming up with it, and here's a side note, I started working on this universe way back in 2007 during a 15-month deployment, but the term Evosapien was used in the cartoon Generator X, which came out in 2010, so less snooze than I lost. They came out, put it out first. Or I guess it was a variant where they called them Evos, but again, that was the short name that I used for Evosapiens, and I felt like this was just entirely too close. So I went back to square one, back to searching for a name, and eventually landed on a term that I knew would work, the term that we know now. After talking with two of my good friends, Will and Eric, Phenosapien was born. The scientific term for Phenosapien, and yes, there is a scientific term that is used within the SoVerse, is Zenith Homo sapiens Pheno, and the short name for Phenosapien is Pheno. This is a term derived from the ideal of phenotype, which kind of made sense as the definition of phenotype is the set of observable characteristics of an individual resulting from the interaction of its genotype with the environment. And this is something that we're going to go in depth on as the stories move forward. You're actually going to get a little taste of that as I keep explaining things. Phenosapiens are individuals who were born with an active phenogene, a term coined by Elias Rein during his early years in genetics. The phenogene is a mutation in the DNA of a certain set of individuals, and from what Elias could tell, these individuals all came from a common ancestor who was alive well over 6,000 years ago. Even though the term Phenosapien is used, it's not only the phenotype of the person that has changed, but the genotype, as well as the change is rooted here. How this gene mutated in this particular human, no one knows. However, The mass activation, which unlocked the first latch in this gene, happened during the Carrington event in 1859. Still, the error in the gene is unknown. However, again, fringe scientists looking into Elias's work feel there may have been some extraterrestrial intervention. This is something Elias feels could have been a possibility, especially with all the things he has seen while working with Temple. And because of the way the gene is structured, to him, it reads like it's encased, most definitely asleep or in a deep coma, but locked like a fortress. Those were his words. And with his studies in blooming, there's a video coming on that soon, so keep your eyes open for that. He's figured strenuous emotional events are the only keys to breaking this case. In other words, deep emotional damage. Elias has also stated that the error is too calculated, too structured, like designed. While he doesn't work with the French scientists directly because of his high level of visibility in the government, he has endorsed them, either with research or funds when they need it, as they can work without losing the trust of the public eye. People already expect them to be crazy, so it's easier for them to work than it is for him. But they are saner than what some would want to admit. Without going into a full breakdown of how RNA, DNA, genotype, and phenotype work, I may, though, link another video in the description that gives a nice brief on it. However, I'm just going to tell you what some of the abilities are and changes that may come when the phenogene is activated, and point out how some of the interesting ones are direct manifestations of the wielder's environment. This can include any type of power, as well as any type of look. Some individuals mutated physically, and those that did may or may not have powers. This is something Elias is looking into to figure out why. And this, believe it or not, is a common occurrence. Like I stated previously, not every Phenosapien whose phenogene has been unlocked develop powers. It's interesting, really, as those individuals may have just developed a mutation that's outside of the genes passed down to them by their parents. For instance, a blooming, which there is a short on the term blooming, however, there's a long form video coming soon. But a blooming, bloom to bloom, is basically when a character in the SoVerse gets their powers. So, a blooming can unlock blue skin with purple hair and pointed ears, but no powers to coincide with that. While the same blue skin, purple hair, and pointy ears unlock in a sibling, and they also get powers. And as another side note, I just want you to remember that description. Just remember that description. That's all I'm going to say about that. This can also happen with someone developing animalistic traits, like feline attributes, but no extraordinary abilities outside of just looking like a cat. Then there's the other side, those that develop powers when their phenogene is unlocked, which, believe it or not, is a minority in the Phenosapien community. In other words, not every Phenosapien develops powers. If you read Cypher Team Alpha Issue 1, you can see this when paying attention to those in line to register their phenogene. And then, when the riot breaks out, those that are actually using powers to fight back is a way smaller number than what you saw previously. To better explain this, just because a Phenosapien looks wolf-like doesn't mean they can do a sonic howl. They may only have enhanced strength, endurance, and speed, but pitted against a wolf-like Pheno who has the super variant of those three, strength, endurance, and speed, they may also have a sonic howl because superpowers. Those two, if they came head to head, of course, the superpowered one would win. As far as what powers come when a Phenosapien blooms is interesting. Some either get the same powers that their parents or ancestors had, or they get a variant of it. For instance, a parent may have had ice manipulation, but the child gets ice manifestation. Others, they're a little more unique, as their powers are manifested from their environment, like I mentioned previously. An example of a character this happened to is Daquan Washington from Temple High. Neither of his parents had powers, nor did they ever bloom. One carried the phenogene though, and that's how Daquan got the phenogene, but that's all. When he bloomed, his powers showed to be a reflection of the situation he was going through and his environment, because on the day of his blooming, he and his best friend were caught up in the crossfire of a gang war, His best friend was killed in front of him. When this happened, his anger, confusion, sadness, and angst spilled out into the streets of an entire city block as he bloomed into what I like to call a reverse empath. Everyone felt his emotions and acted in kind. There are so many types of Phenosapiens in our stories, and this is what I mean when I say diversity in the story. We show different ways things are, and while it reflects how different things are in the real world, the SoVerse isn't meant to be a mirror or a parallel, just a fantastical place for you to escape to. If you've listened this far, thank you. And if this got you interested in wanting to know more, thumb the like button and give us a follow so you can learn more about the SoVerse as more videos drop. If you didn't like it, share it with someone who you feel would dig what we're doing. Also, check out our comics, either through our Patreon or on our website. Take it easy, Chimeras. Thank you for joining me for this episode of SoVerse Explained, and I'll be seeing you soon.